This is a 1974 Deluxe Reverb, and this is an Axe-FX. This is a JHS Morning Glory, and this is an Axe-FX. Inside the Deluxe Reverb is a vintage Utah speaker. I know it's not the Jensen, but it is a vintage broken-in old Utah speaker from the 70s. This is an Axe-FX. So is one tonally superior to the other? What's up, everyone? My name is Matthew Dale. I am here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more. And today we're going to be comparing the Axe-FX with my vintage 1974 Fender Deluxe Reverb. Real quick before we get into some playing examples, if you want to download my favorite sounds for your Axe-FX III, FM9, or FM3, then head over to matthewdale.com/blocks and download my blocks library for yourself. So let me give you a general idea of the setup here. This guitar, my PRS McCarty 594, is plugged directly into the front of the Axe-FX into input 1. And first, I am running just from input 1 to output 3, which is one of our unity gain outputs on the Axe-FX. And that is going all the way through my studio here over to this, or it will be going to this. And then my JHS Morning Glory is going to be plugged directly into the Deluxe Reverb. Because output 3 is one of our unity gain outputs on the Axe-FX, and because I have output 3 turned all the way up on the front face of the Axe-FX, it's not boosting or attenuating the sound from my pickups in my guitar. So what I have on one side of my studio is a complete analog signal chain. JHS Morning Glory into the Deluxe Reverb with a splash of that glorious spring reverb that's inside the Deluxe Reverb. Hence, Deluxe Reverb, I guess. Now, over in the digital modeling realm, I'm also routing input 1 through a signal chain on the grid that's also going through a model of a JHS Morning Glory, a Deluxe Reverb amp model, some spring reverb, and a 1x12 Deluxe Reverb speaker cabinet. I am currently mic'd up with a Sennheiser E609 on the front of my Deluxe Reverb, and I've got a similar microphone setup for the Dynacab over in the Axe-FX. It sounds close enough. This really isn't going to be a do these sound exactly alike. In this test, I want you to try to guess two things. Which example do you think is the modeler, and which example do you think is the tube amp? And then separately, a separate question, which example do you think sounds the best? And to make things all the more even and fair, there's actually going to be 3 audio examples. One is obviously the tube amp, another is obviously the Axe-FX, and one is going to be a secret hidden option that I am going to unveil at the end of this video. Because I'm already going through the Axe-FX, that means that I can actually play the same performance to all 3 of these sources to eliminate any variation in the playing examples. We're going to hear 2 clean examples, 2 dirty examples, and then 2 more full-featured playing examples where I'm actually playing through a couple of pieces and switching out the examples throughout that one performance. So that's probably enough explaining. Let's go ahead and hear the examples. And as you are listening, I want you to comment in the space below. Which one do you think is the tube amp? Which one do you think is the modeler? And which one do you think sounds the best? Okay, last chance. Go ahead and go down in the comment section of this video and tell me, which one do you think is the tube amp? Which one do you think is the Axe-FX, the modeler? And which example out of all three of these playing examples do you think sounds the best? Okay, now that we have all of that taken care of, let's talk about which example was which. Example A was the Axe-FX, the Axe-FX III. Example B was the tube amp, my vintage 74 Deluxe Reverb. And example C, our mystery option, was a Kemper. No, actually, I'm kidding. Example C was actually a tweaked version of my preset inside the Axe-FX. So I went back in and I quickly reamped a couple of different settings on the drive block, in the amp block, in the cab block, and I moved a couple of things around. So this is what example A was. Here I am plugged into input 1 and then going into the Deluxe Reverb vibrato channel, just like I am in my actual reverb. These are my settings. Gain is really low, a little less bass, just a tad bit less treble, and it sounds like this. I'll play it again. And then if I go over here to, well, I guess I'll show you the rest of the chain first. So here's our Reverb Deluxe Spring. It's hooked up in series between the amp and cab, kind of to try to simulate kind of what's going on in the amplifier. Mix is pretty low at 15%, and I'm just dropping the time down a little bit. Inside the cab, I have chosen the 1x12 Dynacab, the Deluxe Reverb Dynacab here. And I have it positioned as so, which is very much like the position of my E609. I found that Dynamic 2 and the 609 sounded mostly similar, and I moved the position around a little bit here. And I did my typical 80 hertz low cut and 8,000 hertz in here as well. And that's it. So that's the signal chain. Now, here is my quick reamped version of this. So you can see I actually moved this reverb, I disengaged this reverb, and I went ahead and I put a different reverb block, still a Deluxe Spring, still around like the same time, but I'm doing it in parallel, so I have a little bit of a cleaner signal from our dry signal to our reverb signal, a little bit of a cleaner distinction between the two, which is one benefit of parallel. I also popped on just a little bit of some light compression behind the amp and cab, and then if we listen to the Morning Glory over here, let me go back to what we had over here. This is on channel A, the Sunrise Splendor. This is the Morning Glory model in the Axe-FX. Here it is on. And now I'm going to switch over to my other chain and then move over to channel B. Channel B has a little bit of graphic EQ, And I'm also doing, I think I boosted the level up. Maybe I did. No, I don't think I did. I think I'm just boosting those mids, and I'm cutting some lows and a little bit of highs. Here's just those two back and forth. And there's one other thing I did that I almost forgot to mention. Over here in the cab, one of the biggest things is I actually mixed in a ribbon microphone Dynacab. So 1x12 Deluxe Reverb with a ribbon mic. I positioned that where I thought it sounded good. And then I also added in a little bit of tube preamp on the mic preamp side of things with a little bit of drive-in saturation. And in the amplifier, I did a little bit of output EQing so I can get a little bit of the low-end thunk back without things getting muddy in the preamp side of the amplifier. And then I also added a little bit of the gain enhancer output compressor. So I did quite a bit of tweaking. And I find that personally, I liked the sound of example C the best. That was the one that I thought sounded the best. Your mileage may vary because this is highly subjective, but I did extra tweaking that I would prefer to have on my sound for this style of amplifier in pedal set up on that example C. So I'm actually really interested to see what the results of this are, how everyone did in the comments below, if they nailed it and said, okay, well, A is the Axe and B is the tube amp, and I thought, whichever sounded the best. My prediction is that we're not really going to see any consistency in which one is the tube amp and which one is the modeler. And because of the subjective nature of the second question, which one do you think sounds the best, I also don't think we're really going to see a whole lot of consistency there as well, unless you're like me and you just feel like, C sounded the best. And that's kind of the point of me making this video. We are at a point in our guitar tone history that the conversation isn't so much amp or modeler and amp is better or whichever. Really, these should all be seen as tools for a specific job. And not one is greater than the other. I was recently on a session at a really nice studio that had just about any amp that I could have imagined in the amp room. There was an old 70s 100-watt Plexi, there was a Silverface twin reverb, and there was a plethora of other boutique and vintage amplifiers. I also brought my FM9 to the session, and while I could have taken the time to pick which amplifier of choice, and we could have picked, which Neumann or which Royer microphone that we wanted to put on the cabinet, and we could have added some ambience cabinets and gotten the studio sound and gotten the sound of the room and the perfect distance on the cab with each mic and made sure that everything was phase aligned. We could have taken the time to basically create the ideal situation for miking up a guitar cab. Or the other thing, me hang out in the control room, plug a direct line from my FM9 in, and I just call up all the sounds I am already familiar with, and I just start recording to fit the song. I was recording for a singer-songwriter, so one, we had just a dedicated time that we were going to be in and out of the studio, and I had to serve my purpose efficiently. And for myself and the engineer that was working on the session, it was just most efficient to take my tones that I already had in the FM9 and run straight into his interface and record from there. And I want to be clear before we wrap up this video that I'm not saying that modelers are better than tube amps. Not saying that tube amps are better than modelers. I'm actually saying that both are really good and we can get great results out of either. And for me and for my money, I feel like I can be more efficient both in a studio and in a live environment, and create a consistent product or a consistent tone night after night or day after day with my digital modeling rig via the Fractal ecosystem, the Axe-FX III, the FM9, and the FM3. If you found this video helpful in your tonal quest, then go ahead and drop me a comment in the space below. Also, if you are a Fractal user and you want to get the most out of your Fractal unit, you should check out my brand new course, Fractal Fundamentals. Fundamentals. Fractal Fundamentals is going to help you unlock the true power of your fractal unit so you can master your guitar tone. And you can learn more at matthewdale.com/fractalfundamentals. My name is Matthew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more, and I'll see you next time.